Welcome back to Monster in My Closet, the podcast where we shine a light on the professional world's darker corners. I'm Anil Saxena, joined by my co-host, the founder of Medusas, Morgan Hunter. Each episode, we tackle the fears and faux pas that haunt our work lives, with insights, interviews, and a dash of humor, some stupid analogies, and probably swearing. So if you've ever felt like you're navigating a workplace labyrinth, a never-ending approval process, an evil hall of mirrors, or a constantly ending quarter, you're in the right place. Let's confront those monsters together. Are you ready? Let's begin. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Monster in My Closet. So Morgan, this week, are we scared or scary?
We're scary. And I think people will be surprised why it's scary.
I'm intrigued about why people would be surprised, and I'm happy that we're scary because it makes me feel like I'm in control of something in my life, right? That, people say you're either in control of the chainsaw or you're a victim of the chainsaw. Is that leatherhead, leather mask, leather man, chainsaw, leather face? Yes, leather face, right? Leather pants, leather something, right? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. For those of you unaware, it's a leather person. I don't know. So, in this week's episode of Monster in My Closet, we explore the dark side of workplace heroism, where well-meaning deeds morph into three-headed monsters of risk, resentment, and burnout. Uncover strategies to prevent these hidden horrors from haunting your team and avoid the Hex of the Hero. So, a few things that we want to talk about today. We want to understand workplace heroism and identify that kind of behavior. And then we want to talk about the root cause of why does that happen in workplaces, because it's not an uncommon phenomenon. And then finally, what are the risks of heroism and what are some strategies that we can put in place to make sure that that doesn't run rampant long in our organizations. Morgan, why is this a topic that might be important to talk about?
I think that we tend to place a high value on heroism in this country and maybe other countries, but I know this country, so that's where I'm going to speak to it. But there's a time and place for heroism. Like if you want to save someone's life, go do it. Go be a hero. I love that. But in corporate America, when people are doing acts of heroism, it's typically because something is horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And so I feel like it's important to kind of expose the negative side of hero behavior in corporate America and the risk associated with that.
Yeah. And I would say, because we've worked with global institutions, that heroism is something that kind of happens universally to some extent. And I mean, I think that another way to think about this is only I can get this done, or only I can do this, or the way that I kind of learned about this was the Curse of the Lone Ranger, or the Masked Man. There was this whole Lenny Bruce did a whole comedy routine about it. Like how at the beginning it was like he saved everything and everybody was really happy about it, and then at the end it was like he was angry at the person because he was always acting like the hero and never letting anybody get anything else done. And so I think that happens a lot in organizations and, and in relationships of all kinds. Why does it happen? Why does heroism kind of rear its ugly head, particularly in organizations that you've seen at least?
There's a few reasons. We'll start with the one, my favorite concept, which is the firefighter arsonist. In some cases, there are people who will create problems so they can solve them. And I'd like to think that this isn't a common occurrence, but my life experience has told me otherwise. It's like, yes, you solved that problem, but you also jacked it up. So thank you for unmessing that up again. And that's really demoralizing to everyone else who got brought into the firefighting exercise. So that's one thing. The other thing is, sometimes if you have very bespoke knowledge and you have deep expertise, that doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to teach people how to do something. So you kind of become a single point of failure in an organization. You have deep expertise. Yes, you are the only one who can do it. And it is faster for you to do it than it is to teach someone else to do it. But that also means that you are now permanently on call every single time something goes bump in the night. And so I see that type of heroism a lot in engineers. My husband actually used to be like this early on. He has broken that habit and learned to mentor and train other people. But it's crazy because it creates single points of failure in your organization. It creates employee burnout, etc. So there's that piece like, hey, I have IP in my head and for whatever reason, I'm unwilling or unable to train other people. And then the third type of heroism that I see quite a bit is that desire to fix other people's problems because they're impacting you, right? So someone else's process is messed up and you go out of your way to mitigate that or lower the impact of that messed up process by doing extra work for yourself personally. And it is heroic and you can get things done. And, people can be really happy that you got things done in a jacked up process. Look at you. Yay. You closed that deal before the end of the quarter, no matter what it took. But the reality is if you're always covering up for someone else's bad process, then there's no pain to be felt and that process never gets corrected. So those are the three main things I see in corporate America where these acts of heroism are creating risk.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting to me because oftentimes when you start an organization, when a company is small, people do have to wear a lot of hats, right? And they do have to do a lot of things. The modus operandi, the way that we go forward should not be an expectation that everybody continues to act that way. What we should be doing is to codify what people are doing and to try to help to make processes easier and faster. But oftentimes what ends up happening is we kind of put in place a broken process and then the heroism is working around that process to actually get things done. I think it's incumbent upon us as leaders, as individuals within organizations, to look for opportunities where we can operationalize things so that we don't have to do these acts of heroism to get things done that should just be kind of par for the course, the way that, closing the deal at the end of the quarter shouldn't take an act of God. It should be like, you're going to close that deal and we're going to get it through the operations. And that's just the nature of the beast. Mm-hmm. It is interesting how that notion of learned helplessness kind of goes very much hand in glove with learned helplessness. So I do think it's interesting. So what are the risks when you see businesses and when employees engage in heroism?
Burnout, resentment, poor operational procedures, to your point just now, a lack of knowledge transfer and documentation. I think acts of heroism can also sometimes erode the sense of being on a team, and you can kind of alienate people on a team if you're always insisting on doing something independently and not bringing other people along. And just collectively, these things open up an organization for a lot of risk.
Yeah. There was a company that shall remain unnamed that I worked at, where there was a senior leader who would fix code. Individual would get a trouble ticket or see a trouble ticket, and they would go in, they would drop what they were doing, or they would wake up in the middle of the night and they would go into production and fix the thing that was broken. And they could do that because they were fucking brilliant, smart beyond reason, but they were a VP. And so it undermined the team's ability, the whole organization's ability to learn how to solve those problems systemically. And it actually kind of made people apathetic because they were like, well, Gary is going to go in and fix that problem. So I don't really need to learn why it was broken or what we need to do.
I would have so many questions. Like if I got wind of something like that, I'm like, why on earth are you fixing that code? What horrible thing have we done that has led us to the situation? No.
Right? It's so interesting though, but I don't think that is something that is uncommon, right? I think there are many senior leaders who step in to fix things that are not working. And it's because it's like this short-term thing, right? There's over the line. We just got to get it done this quarter. We just got to get this completed. But that ends up being something that never gets fully taken care of, because when that person takes their concentration off of it, then everybody else just goes back to the way that it was.
That's really interesting, that thing about senior leaders, because now that I'm thinking about it, I have seen that in senior leaders. And I've actually even experienced where like I did a thing and it missed the mark, which is fine. And the senior leader's like, I'm going to fix it. And I said, well, why don't you just tell me what I did wrong and I'll fix it, because I'm cool like that. And she's like, I don't have enough hours in my day to coach you on this. And I'm like, okay, great. It was totally demoralizing because I'm like, I'm not worth coaching. Am I not bad? Oh my God. Anyway, so I have seen that. Swoop in at the last minute, and as opposed to like bringing your people along and creating future leaders, right? You are just like stepping in and smoothing it over.
Well, and it makes you wonder, like, as a senior leader, why is it that your day is full of firefighting meetings, or meetings to get this thing over the line? And oftentimes it's because we've created this culture of, well, it can't get done without Gary. Like, this decision requires Gary to do it, or there's some disagreement on how it's going to get done. And so the only arbiter is Gary. And it's like, well, but that's not scalable, right? That's not something that we can do often.
There's something interesting happening here, though. What if you're a reluctant hero? What if you're not really the person who wants to be the hero, but instead you are a babysitter being labeled as a hero? Because I'm thinking about sitting in all those meetings. It's like, Gary has to be in all these meetings. Well, maybe Gary's babysitting the process because the process is so bad, right? I just want to put that out there because there are some times where you're a babysitter. There's nothing heroic about it, and that's a whole different problem to solve.
I don't disagree with you, but I think, but I'm about to, because I said I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to disagree with you. So I think that none of us are really reluctant heroes, right? I get this sense. So at least for me, what I see is that it's nice to be needed. It's nice as an underlying thing to be like, well, I got to go to Gary to make this happen. And instead of Gary saying, well, you got to figure that out on your own, or this is the person that you need to talk to make that happen, they kind of walk you through it. I mean, I typically remember when I started working with you, you like scheduled meetings to do transitions, and you were there for like the first meeting. And then after that, it was mine. And I don't know if that made you a genius or a bad manager, then it required me to be self-reliant, because it's like, I could go back to you with questions, but you were not going to come to that meeting. So I think that unfortunately what happens is there's almost like a little bit of a hit of dopamine when you're like, well, I got to come in to solve this problem. I don't wanna, but I'm gonna do it because I'm Sheriff Gary, and I'm here to solve the problem, and I'm gonna chase away the outlaws or whatever. I think that it is a little bit insidious in that respect, where you are not giving your folks, or you're not giving the process an opportunity to test or to fail, right?
I think I love that you brought up this real live example of me throwing you to the wolves. I kind of want to unpack that a little bit. So, because there was a reason that I did that. I am a control freak. And I think my way is the best way always. But I'm also a person who reflects on things like that and goes, no, Morgan. There are other ways other than your way, and those ways are just as good, even though it's not the way you would do it. So I do tend to do very quick transitions, because I want people to assert themselves and their way of doing things into the process without me manipulating them into the way I've always done it, right? Because I feel like my way may not work for you. You need to establish your own relationships, your own rapport, your own processes, do what works for you. So yeah. Sometimes I extract myself very quickly because I feel like it's in the best interest of the employee. Maybe it's not, but I have to do that because otherwise I'll meddle. I'm so meddlesome.
Well, but I actually felt like that was really powerful, because I knew you were still there to support, but I was going to have to kind of fend for myself a little bit. And I think that that's actually a really good lesson for people, because heroism is a little bit about like, I don't want my baby to fall, or I don't want the thing to fail, but maybe the best thing for it is for it to fall or for it to fail, so that it can get stronger, right? It can understand and get that muscle memory about, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. I want to avoid this, so that as an organization or as a person, I can get that a little bit myself. And I think what happens when you have a culture of heroism, or in the United States, we call it a cowboy culture, right? What ends up happening is there is this tendency to wait to the last minute for everything, or to not worry about something until it's almost ready to fail, because you know that somebody's going to come in to save the day, right? But that's not a way to run a successful organization, or an organization that's going to be repeatably successful over time.
Yeah, you can't apply any pressure to that organization, because they're already dealing with like this perpetual, almost ready to fail situation.
Yeah. And
well, you're burning out your best people. It seems like it's always the same people that run to the rescue, right? It's your best people, your smartest people, your most seasoned person, whatever. And they're really kind of the last people you want to burn out, but yet you do it.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to do because we're all busy, right?
Yeah.
And so if you know that Gary's going to come to the rescue every time, then you're never going to learn how to do it on your own. You're going to get angry at Gary when he doesn't come to the rescue, even though that's not his job. Even that last week of the quarter, you're not waiting to kind of close all your deals. because there's a lot of chance of slippage. Um, un- Unless you get some rigor around doing that, then you're always going to have acts of heroism, and you're going to end up making bad deals at the end or bad decisions at the end because you've waited to the last minute to make things happen.
Let's talk about how people can prevent this stuff
Do
from
it.
happening.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think um, rewarding the behaviors that you want to see is important. Behaviors, rewarding the behaviors, not rewarding the outcomes. Those are different things in my world. So, for instance, if you want to, as a senior engineer, if you would like to get a promotion, as a senior engineer, we expect you to demonstrate behaviors like mentoring, teamwork, knowledge transfer, documentation, etc. Right? So, I think we need to reinforce those behaviors, like you said, the linearity and stuff like that. It's like you need to, I don't know, maybe reward people for closing deals early in the quarter, whatever that looks like. I think that we really need to take a close look at the day-to-day activities of individuals in the corporation and on teams and make sure that we're supporting the right behaviors and not the heroic outcome at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I would concur with all of those, right? We want to make sure that we are job shadowing, mentoring, knowledge sharing, whatever it is that you want to say, that is absolutely critical in organizations. We want to make sure that we are pushing that knowledge down and out into an organization so that everyone on the team really understands how to get things done in a very efficient way. And where that is not possible, we want to automate. We want to automate reports. We want to automate processes. I feel like I've said this before in other conversations. We want to ask the question, what if this was easy? All right. So what if I took this 10-step process and turned it into 3 steps or no steps? So I think those are really important things to be thinking about. And then I think the other thing that we want to do is we want to identify heroism and what are the negative impacts of heroism, right? So it's important to do like postmortems and premortems and stuff like that so that we can identify that we don't want Gary coming in at the last minute every time to make this happen. So what are we going to put in place so that that doesn't have to happen moving forward?
Yeah, so my daughter works for a major hotel chain, and they have a thing called a glitch report, which I love. And it's completely normalized in their culture. If anything goes wrong, if extra effort had to be made in order to keep the client satisfied, a glitch report gets filed. It gets documented. Anyone can fill out the report, anyone. And then it gets talked about by the entire, not just the little team that was impacted by, but the entire leadership team talks about what went wrong and at what part of the process did it go wrong and how did they correct it. It is the most mature process I have ever seen in my life in terms of just without emotion saying that didn't work as planned. Let's go back and look at that, right? And it's just so normalized. And I feel like if we could get that to happen in corporate America, where we can say without emotion or judgment, that didn't go right, that extra effort was not required, it shouldn't have taken that, what can we do differently next time? I would love to see that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is so critical to having an organization that is highly functioning, is to be able to pick apart processes that you have in place now and really questioning what is it that we're doing that we could do better. I mean, I remember there was a project that I was working on and we were talking about revenue recognition, and they were, that's not how we recognize revenue. It's got to be done this way. And I would say, but we're the ones who made the rules. Couldn't we just do it a different? Couldn't we just? So I think that's really important for us to question that all the time. I do think that's really, really important. And I think the other thing to do too, in my opinion, is to talk to those people that continually come to the rescue and really explore with them what is it that they could do differently so that that's not something that people expect of them or that they expect of themselves. That requires also a kind of mature conversation with people.
Yeah. As a leader, you also need to be at peace with letting people stumble.
Mm,
Fail is a triggering word, but I mean, I think you should let people fail.
yeah.
I think it's okay because, especially in corporate America, like if you do a presentation and the executive you're presenting to is asking you all kinds of curveball questions, and your boss jumps in and covers for you, I guess that's okay. But what did I learn? What did I learn about being resilient and be able to answer questions, tough questions, and recover during the course of a conversation or a presentation? I didn't learn anything because someone jumped in and rescued me. So I think we need to let people stumble a little bit so they learn to walk on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's super important, right? That we have to make sure that we lift the hex of heroism in our organizations. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel a little less scared, right? Right now. So I feel like we've done some good today, Morgan. And I can put the chains away.
That's the message here.
Yeah. At the end of the day, isn't that always the truth, right? It's always about me. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of Monster in My Closet, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
As we wrap up another episode here at Monster in My Closet, we want to thank you, our fearless listeners, for joining us on this journey of exploring what scares us or when we're scary. Professionally, of course. Together, we've ventured deep into the workplace wilderness armed with humor, insights, and a touch of irreverence, and hopefully learned something together along the way. But our journey doesn't end here. Monster in My Closet is proud to be part of Medusas.org. Medusas is a membership-driven, non-profit organization serving underrepresented groups, minorities, and individuals with disabilities who are doing business in the software-as-a-service space. We're a community created by SaaS professionals, for SaaS professionals, and even the SaaS curious. Visit Medusas.org to discover how you can contribute to a movement that empowers professionals to face their workplace monsters head-on. Don't forget to subscribe, share with your colleagues, and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us shine a light on the monsters lurking in the professional closet, making our community braver, stronger, and a little bit wiser. Until next time, keep challenging the status quo, embrace the journey, and remember, no monster is too big when we face it together. Cheers.